Hi all, welcome. I'm Julia Katsibo. Today is our Q&A question and answer session. And this is where I answer all your marketing questions, all your business strategy questions. We have some great questions that came in offline. And if you're online, please do put in your question however you feel like. It's very important that we get your question in there. So I hope that this week is a pleasant one for you. For many, it's the end of the second quarter, and for some people, it's a time when they look at their recordings, the calculations, everything that they've recorded, and realize that they're not meeting their revenue goal. For other people, maybe they're looking at what they've written down and what they projected and what they've been doing, and they realize that they're well on their way to meeting their revenue goal for the year. So I've had a chance to speak with both. And, there are those people who are extremely excited. They know that the year is turning out to be really good. It's the halfway point, and they couldn't ask for more. And then there are the others who are kind of in hiding mode now because things are not working out that well, and they're wondering, like, what's the point? Can I just close up shop and just, maybe do something else? So let me know where you are with your year plans. Are you on track to meet your goals, or are you not on track to meet your goals? And something about this is that this is not a judgment. This is not a reflection on your character. This is not anything to do with time management or anything like that. It's just pretty much looking at a record and seeing where you are and whether you're on track or whether you're not on track. And it's a good way to look objectively at what's going on and then ask yourself where you could maybe, cut back or increase in terms of costs or time or activities, that sort of thing. So thanks for joining. And again, if you have any questions, put them down. I'm going to jump into one question because it has to do with time management that someone asked me, and the question was, how do you manage your time so that you are focusing on the right activities? And by right activities, this is what I mean. As a business owner, the majority of your activities should be in sales and marketing, because it's sales and marketing that are going to give you the clients. And then what you do is you invest in help for fulfillment. And fulfillment is where you actually carry out the services or deliver the products that you've been paid for. And administrative tasks, bookkeeping, all of that good stuff, this is where you can actually get people to help you so that you're not spending 7 hours a day trying to reconcile your books or answering emails or, going back and forth on technical issues with people when you could be out there marketing and selling. So I see here a few comments. We're not on track. Yes, we need cash flow to sustain your mission. And we're going to go into that. If you have any specific question, do make sure to put it down. But I'm going to go ahead and answer the question that I was asked about time management. And one of the ways that I manage my time and I help my clients to manage their time is to create a calendar. I use my phone's calendar, but I also use a, paper calendar. And what I do is I map out everything that I know that's going to happen for the year. I put that all in, and I'll go a little bit into details with that. And then I also map out every 3 months and every month what my activities are going to be for that month or 3 months or the year. So for the year, what you're looking at is starting off with what you know. You know the birthdays, you know the holidays, you know the vacations. You want to put all of that in your calendar. The reason you do this is because we usually assume that we have a lot of time to work, that we have many hours to work. So you might say, oh, Monday to Friday, I'm working. But is that true? If you're babysitting on Friday afternoon, then technically you're only working 4.5 days. If you took off a day because you weren't feeling well, you're only working for 4 days. So it's always a good idea to put everything down on paper so that you can realistically look and say, this is how much I want to bring in, and these are the days that I have for working. The other thing I do as well, once I put down like the birthdays, like any of those dates that I know for a fact that I'm not going to be around or able to work in or on my business, I also put in 3 lieu days. And what I mean by that is I set aside 3 days in the month that I can use at any time. And these are for those emergencies. So maybe you're not feeling well. Instead of beating yourself up because you don't have it in you to show up for your business, that's where the lieu day comes in. Maybe you were off on travels and there were a lot of delays, so your flights didn't come in on time, everything got pushed back. That's where you can use a lieu day. Maybe you have guests who came to visit, and when they left, you found the next day that you just couldn't get up to go to work. People stayed too long or too much cleaning up to do, whatever the case may be. You want to set aside 3 days in the month that if you don't work, in your mind, you know that you have these 3 days that you can position in there. And as long as you let your team know, if you're working with a team, what the plan is and you give them access to your calendar, then everybody's on the same page. The other thing that we do with a calendar is you put in your marketing and sales activities. So these are the activities that technically we focus on a daily basis without even realizing. We have the day-to-day operations, right? And this is usually stuff that you can use an admin assistant for or a virtual assistant for. These are, responding to emails or sending out invites, creating events, sprucing up your website, doing any books and records. These are all the admin things that a lot of people, put a lot of time on. But really what I'd ask you to do is just take a look at your budget and see if that is something that you can hand over to someone else. Save yourself those hours. The other thing that we do is marketing. So marketing is anything that you do to get the word out about your business. And this is online and offline. So online would be on social media. It would be using ads. It would be blog posts, interviews, articles, websites, anything that you do in the online space. And offline would be anything that you do outside of the online space. So if you're speaking at an event, if you're hosting an event, if you're part of an event, if you're in a networking group, or if you just meet someone in a cafeteria and just start talking about your business, these are all the offline marketing events. And that also includes if you hand out flyers or posters or business cards, or if you go to a trade show, or if you are a sponsor at one. And you schedule that in, because if you don't make time for your marketing activities, then that gets forgotten. Now, most people who don't make time for the marketing activities are usually busy because they have clients. And so they're busy servicing those clients and doing the operation stuff. So the stuff that I talked about before, like the emails and, sprucing up websites and putting out social media posts. Now, the unfortunate thing is, should a client leave or should the work dry up, if you haven't been doing any marketing, then you find yourself starting from scratch. And so it's a feast and famine cycle that you're in, where it's like you ramp up your marketing, you get your clients, you're busy with your clients, that fades out, you start again from the beginning. So you should set time aside on your calendar for marketing activities. For a lot of people, what I do suggest is on Monday, this is when you sit down and you write down 10 organizations you're going to reach out to, 20 people that you're going to reach out to. This is where you sit down and you look at the week and you map out, okay, what hour, in what space am I going to do what? This is when you look at the calendar and ask, am I going to enough networking events? Do I have enough phone calls lined up for the week? Am I speaking with enough people? Where can I show up and be seen? And you schedule that in, and then you leave room for your sales conversations. And for your sales conversations, I say do this based on, because you're the one who's going to be carrying them out. Unless you have a team that helps you, the best person to sell your business is you. There's absolutely no one who's going to do a better job than you. So for the sales conversations, I say schedule them in either first thing in the morning or when you are at your best. Now, I tried both approaches, and I used to schedule my sales conversations in the afternoons and in the evenings because I just didn't want to do them in the morning. And what I found was that I actually have better days when I have my sales conversations in the morning. So like from 9 a.m. to noon. That's what I do, is I do my best to schedule them early in the morning. Why? Number one, it takes care of that. If you have a sales conversation later on in the day, you may build up anxiety leading toward that sales conversation, especially if you're hungry and you need the money. Then there's a lot of pressure that's going to be placed on that one call, that poor one call that's later on in the day. You might find that, as the time is approaching, you're even doubting yourself, or something comes up, an emergency, and you need to reschedule. But if you do this in the morning, what I found for myself is that when I'm done with the conversation, I'm pumped up and I'm ready to do anything else, and I'm ready to go work on other things. So you want to schedule time for your sales conversations and decide for yourself when you're going to have them. One of the rules that I use, and that I have a lot of my clients use, is that we schedule our sales conversations Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. It's just I was gonna say mojo, but you have to arrange, you have to design your business around your life, or it's not going to be sustainable. So for example, I speak with some people, and I just spoke with a gentleman, and he's like, I don't know how you have time to do this or that. Or he's like, I get calls coming in, I get emails coming in. I may plan to leave at 6 o'clock and I'm done at 9 p.m. And I said, it's because you're reacting. You're reacting to the phone calls. You're reacting to the emails. You're reacting to the work that lands on your plate. But if you intentionally set a schedule for yourself, and I know schedules are hard, especially because we have these childhood memories of growing up and having to be in school by a certain time, and in class by a certain time, and at our part-time jobs by a certain time. You probably went into entrepreneurship because you were tired of clocking in and out at a certain time. But really, schedules are freedom. Routine is freedom. So for example, if you schedule your sales calls on Monday, then you might find that on Sunday you're dreading the next day, because you'll be thinking, now I have these calls that are scheduled and I have to convince someone to buy something. But what if you left Monday for the day when you do the administrative stuff that I was talking about? And if you have a team, or you've hired people to help you out, then this is where you schedule in your meetings with them, just to make sure that everybody's on the same page. Mondays are really great days to sort of like look at the business over a long term and ask yourself what gaps you need to fill in, where you need to add in more opportunities, what you need to do. It's a really great day to plan. And the beauty about it is that it gives you a chance to ease into the week without scrambling or feeling this pressure that business can sometimes bring upon us, in which you feel trapped and not free. So if you schedule your sales conversations on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, what I've found is that you train people how to treat you. And that is also true in the business world. So if you're speaking with people, you find out what day will be best to speak with them. And depending on the situation, most people will fit into the days that you have assigned for yourself to be the days when you have your sales calls. Now, there's some days when I'll have calls on a Friday or a Saturday. And for those days, I've specifically set that in my calendar, because maybe I've taken a look at it and I see that, oh, we have a long weekend, which means that I'm not going to be working for maybe 2 days of that week, the Friday and the next Monday. So I don't mind working into Saturday of the following week. And that's an example. So it's always you being proactive in that sense. So once you schedule that in, also schedule in your defined breaks. Now, if you leave it up to your schedule and you leave it up to nature and the world for you to take your breaks, lunch breaks or dinner breaks or exercise breaks, you're probably not going to do a thing. I've been there, done that. For maybe 2 years, when I started my first business, which was freelancing, I just ate when I could. But that meant that I was not healthy. It's like you're eating, but you're on the computer. So you're not even mindful about what you're doing. Exercise, wow, that was a privilege. That was something that I just didn't have time for. But then now I've scheduled those activities in my calendar so that I can plan around them. So if you know that you're taking lunch from 12 to 1, then you will not take a call at 11:56 a.m. You just won't, because you've scheduled that time to eat, to take care of yourself. You need your energy. So I have a question here. How do you schedule time when your schedule varies due to family obligations? That's a really good question. And And the truth is, it's easier if you don't have a family to kind of like create your own lifestyle and do your own thing. But I have great examples of people with families, blended families, and lots of obligations who have still managed to create a calendar. And this is where I ask that you sit down with your family members. So if your children are old enough, have them come to the table. If not, sit down with your spouse, take out a wall calendar. So I use the wall calendar, and I did mention I use my phone calendar, but I also use that year-long calendar. You take up the calendar, you sit down, and you both plan. One of the things you'll realize is that when you're forced to sit down and put things down on paper, you are more organized. So a lot of people may say, oh yeah, but I don't know, whether we have an event next week or whether, people are visiting in 2 months, or if I'm doing. The truth is, if you sit down and you're forced to plan it, then it's planned. So you can sit down with your spouse or your partner, and then ask each other, what are vacation days? And again, this forces you to plan so that you're not sort of like winging it through the year, and then one day you just wake up and say, I'm tired, let's go on a vacation, and use money that you didn't budget for and take time that you can't afford, right? But if you sit down and you say, okay, what are you thinking about vacation? Do you think we can have a 5-day vacation or 2-week vacation? Should we take it all at once, or should we spread it out? Put that down in your calendar. And then this way, you also know what you have to work toward. And this is especially important for the people who don't have a budget. We're always told have a budget, always have enough money in your account for all the different things. The reality is very few people do that. Very few people have money set aside each year for vacation or for emergencies, or, most people kind of like live on that day by day, pray to God the world doesn't crumble, that the car holds up, that no emergency happens, and if it does, that there's room on the credit card. But if you sit down and you plan, then what this does is it allows you to even create the opportunity to make that money. So say you sat down, when is today? Tuesday? Say you sat down over the weekend with your partner and you said, you know what, let's plan out the rest of 2019. Do you think we can take a holiday? And he or she says, yeah, let's do it. Let's do it in December. And you decide on the week. Then that will give you a really good idea of, well, how much money do we need so that we can take that vacation comfortably? And it'll give you something to work toward. So whether it is cutting back between now and December, or doing something extra to bring in extra money, or just simply setting aside what's already coming in, but at least you're working towards something. So, you sit down and you decide who's picking up the kids on what date, what time, who's responsible for the grocery shopping on what days, what time. And then you take that calendar and you put it up where everyone can see it. And the good news about this is people also get to see when you're doing your activities, because the truth is, with business owners, it's funny, but your own family won't take you as seriously as the rest of the world. They just don't see it that way. So, if you tell them I'm going into my study to work, there's a part of them that's like, work at what? Like, what exactly are you doing? What do you do when you sit down? But if you have a calendar and you have slots, put out, like, so for example, if you have on your calendar on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m., you are going to be making sales calls, and you have that on your calendar, then it's easier for your family members to get on board with what you're doing. You see what I mean? Because when they look at the calendar, and maybe someone wanted to ask you to do something and they were thinking, I know she says she's going to work, but I'm sure she can do this for me. They can look at the calendar and see that, oh no, I see here sales calls from 10 a.m. to 11. I see here sales calls, or I see here planning day. Like when you put the stuff on your calendar, everybody is then on board. And a funny thing happens too. You find that people start to protect your time for you. So as an example, I had to train my friends about my work by continually repeating the activities that I was doing on specific dates. And I was doing this for 2 reasons. One, it was to let them know that just because I was working from home didn't mean that they could just show up, or they could just call me to go out and do stuff. Like I had an obligation to my business. And the second thing was I was intentionally training them to remember key aspects of what I do so that that could come back in the future and bless me. And this is how it has. There are times when people will be making plans, as an example, and then they'll say, Tuesday is when movie night is the cheapest, we should go. And then someone will pipe up and say, oh no, that's not gonna work, because on Tuesday evenings, Julia is either speaking at an event, or she's doing a Facebook Live, or she's doing something like that. So maybe we can try a different date. And it's when I hear that you know that things are working, when you're like, you get it. That time is precious and it has a specific cause. And the beauty about it is that it has been proven scientifically that people are actually more liable to get on board with your plan when they know what's going on, when they know what the reasons are. And it's not that they're being nosy, but it's just that we have this thing in our brain that needs to understand, that will constantly ask why to unanswered questions. So if you say, Monday to Friday mornings, don't bother me, I'm working, there's still questions in people's minds because they don't know what you're doing. They don't know your business. You're the one who knows it. And unless you educated them on it, then you can't expect them to know it. You just absolutely can't. That would be an unmet expectation, an unfulfilled expectation that leads to resentment down the line. But if you tell them, so Monday to Friday mornings, this is when I sit down and I look for speaking engagements. This is when I look for contracts. This is when I look for partnerships. This is when I look for people I can schedule sales calls with. Then you're giving them context, and context is key, because then they understand why that time is precious to you. And that's why it's important to do and make up your calendar. And when you do that, put it out where your family can see it. That's with the calendar. So I hope I answered your question, Salima. If not, let me know. Okay, so is it better to charge more for events so that people are more inclined to show up? People register and do not show if it's free. Yeah, that's true. I mean, the thing about money is that we've been educated from a very young age that money means that you're giving for something. You're giving for something. There's an exchange that's taking place. So free doesn't quite count that way. Free will only work if you do it using the law of reciprocity. So reciprocity, what I mean by that is if you wanted to do a free event, let me just put it this way. If you wanted to do a free event, one of the best ways to do it is before the event to give something for free. Yes, your event is free, but give something for free. Like maybe give the person who's joined your mailing list a free PDF. Or if you met someone in a trade booth, give them a free CD. Give them something for free. Do something for free. And then follow up with the invite to your free event. That's when they'll show up. And they will show up because we're inclined to return favors. We're inclined to settle the score mentally. Like when you get something for free, you feel like you owe someone something. So if you're doing a free event, you want to give something for free way before that, and then invite them to the free event. And you'll find that the turnout is higher. But generally, put a price to your event. This way, the turnout is likely to be more. It's going to be higher. And also, people have an expectation based on how much you're charging for an event. So sometimes you may have an event where you're charging $5, and other times you'll have an event where you're charging $97. One of the things you will notice is the mindset is markedly different between the people who show up for the $5 event and the ones who show up for the $97 event. If you have vendors, or if you are a vendor yourself, you'll see this for yourself, where when you have a $5 event, people may not buy from you as much as if you have a $97 event. Because when they're coming to the $5 event, they're not coming to spend. They're not primed to spend. Spending is not in their brain. But $97 and above, it's different. And this has happened countless of times. I've gone into an event where I paid $197, and at that time for me, I was like, whoa, it was pretty much my introduction to higher ticket events. And I thought, even this 197, I don't even know how I got it. It's like US dollars. I was like, I'm not going to spend any money. Oh my gosh. I walked out of that event spending $3,500 because the vendors all had something that I needed. I bet you though, if it was a free event in which I had spent nothing, or if I spent maybe $5, $10, $35, I wouldn't have brought out my credit card and spent that much. So it is a psychological thing. Yeah. So a question here is best ways you're able to get clients and biggest mistakes you have seen clients make when it comes to marketing. All right, those are really good questions. Thank you. So let me go with the biggest mistakes that I see clients make when it comes to marketing. The first biggest mistake is people who market on the fly. So this is what I mean by that. They market when they feel like it, or they market when they have something that they want to sell. So for example, if you have an event coming up, that's when you'll see that flurry of marketing taking place. Or if the person is in a good mood, that's when they're going to write, oh, I have the best clients in the world ever. I love my job, #blessed. Or if they're in a bad mood, that's when you're going to see that post that's like, for future clients, when you make a decision, stick to it, pay, blah, blah, blah. So marketing on the fly is one thing. There's a way you can market on the fly, but make sure that it is consistent with everything that you're doing. And I'm huge when it comes to organization and planning, because that's the key to success. Success is not a mistake. It's not something you stumble on, at least not the one that is sustainable and will last and is strong enough to stand the test of time. So, one thing to do is have a calendar for your marketing events. So I know I mentioned the calendar for everything. This time, have a calendar for your marketing events. So for example, you'll say Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I have social media posts. Tuesday evening, I have a networking event. Friday morning, I have a speaking. Saturday, I'm going to just share articles. When you have that, then anytime you want to do something or you feel like doing something, you just simply look at your calendar and it'll tell you what to do. That is if you're not using a scheduling system. Now, the algorithms on social media has changed so that they don't favor scheduling systems anymore. You'll find that if you're using Hootsuite or MeetEdgar or Buffer, any one of those scheduling systems, your posts will not have a wide reach, as wide as if you physically input the information yourself. The other way you can get around that is you can put the information and then schedule it to post at a later time, and you can do that on Facebook. Or if you have someone to do this work for you, even better. Now, one of my strengths is marketing and social media marketing. So I'm able to put out content very quickly across several platforms in 5 minutes. If you are that kind of person, then all you need to do is just follow your calendar. So your calendar will tell you the kind of posts that you're putting out. So you want to make it a third humorous or inspirational, a third you're selling, and a third education. So you simply want to look and make sure that you have a good mix of all of them and that you're posting them bearing in mind your audience on all the different platforms. And when you do this, even though you have those moments on the fly when you're like, oh, I have an event, please come up, people have been hearing from you consistently. This is not just a one time you show up and say something, people have been hearing from you consistently. And you want to do that as well with your email marketing, with all your different platforms. So that's one of the mistakes that I've seen. The second biggest mistake is people who do not have a very clear indication of who their ideal client is. So they're speaking to a target group. So for example, the example I like to use, because it's easy to understand, is if you have a life coach who specializes with stressed professional women. So if you are putting out your posts to all the stressed professional women, you're actually not getting anything for your efforts, because stressed professional women encompasses way too many ideal clients and niches within it. A stressed professional woman may not necessarily be looking for help from a life coach. The stressed professional woman could have children, could not have children, could live in the suburbs, could be living in the city. There are all these different variations, so that when you're targeting just a group of people, you're actually not going to get anyone. You have to be super specific. So an example would be a stressed professional woman with 2 small children who lives in the suburbs, who wants to go back to being physically fit and serving healthy meals and have moments for herself, but she can't because of the demands at work and the demands at home, and she doesn't know what to do. And she doesn't have much time to, take an hour for yoga. She just doesn't. You see how specific that is? So when you're marketing to that person and you're giving them, for the humorous to inspirational, you're giving them the kind of information that makes them feel that, oh, you understand me, and help them laugh at their situation. For the educational, when you teach them about simple ways or tricks that they can use to bring in Zen into their everyday life, or even how to be organized as an example. And for the other third, where it's selling, where you actually have them come out to an event or something online, or sign up to speak with you so that they can be your client, then you're going to get hits in a way that you never have before, because it's that targeted. So people need to be targeted. Whatever it is that you're doing with your business, make sure that you can see a person in front of you. And if you can't see a person in front of you, then you need to sit down with paper and pen and get really, really super clear about who it is that you're serving. And if you're completely lost on that, then go back to yourself. Most people started businesses to solve their own problems. So maybe you're the ideal client. And if that's the case, then write down everything you know about yourself and then start targeting that persona, and you're going to get far better results. And so those are the mistakes that I see with marketing. And also the third one is just people throwing money at what they don't understand. So people throwing money for Google ads or Facebook ads, giving money to agencies to do their marketing for them, or paying marketers and having no idea who their ideal client is and hoping that someone's going to put up some Instagram posts that will bring in leads. You don't want to pay money for what you don't understand, because you have no way of measuring the results. You have no idea. The best way to use your money is to know exactly what it's going for and what you can reasonably expect from it. And that comes from experience. So you need to dabble in this yourself and then give all the information that's needed to the expert, so that you help them do their job better and you get better results. Is writing a book a good way to market yourself? Yeah, that's a very interesting question. So I've seen people who started off their businesses or their careers writing books, and then using the books to get, onto bigger platforms or to go out and market and whatnot. This is what I would suggest. Do not write a book unless you have reach. And by reach, I mean, I'm not talking about your 5,000 Facebook friends, your 15,000 LinkedIn buddies. I mean, an actual community, people. Because writing and selling a book is really hard. It's really, really hard. And if you're using the book as a marketing tool, so the misconception around books is, and I come from a writing background, so I would see this a lot, where people would think that they would write books, sell them, make money. But books don't necessarily do that for you. They don't necessarily bring you money. What they are is an effective marketing tool. So if you want to use your book and have it successfully launch and have people buy it and read it, not buy it and then put it away and then gift it at a raffle somewhere else in some random place that you've never heard of, then you want to make sure that you have a community built first. So work on that organic, building relationships, building a community, getting clients who love your work, getting people who rally behind you, so that when your book comes out, you have people who will buy it and people who will read it and people who will refer it. Because it's a lot of hours and a lot of time and a lot of money that goes into producing a good book. And you want to make sure that it gets its due, recognition. And you want to do this so that people, with the Amazon ratings and all of that with self-publishing, there's it used to be this way before, and I see the shift coming back. There's less respect for awards or recognition, peer recognition that's not certified by mainstream platforms. So, I know people who will post books in obscure categories, as an example, that they self-publish. And because they've posted the book in an obscure category and they're the only ones who've posted their book there, just a couple people buying the books gives them a bestseller status. But people are savvy and people use the internet a lot, and so they know, not to take that too seriously, which is too bad, because perhaps the content in the book could be life-changing or a lifesaver. So I'm just looking here, and it's interesting as the sun is going, shifting, just the way it's falling on my face. But yeah, I hope I answered that question. So you asked, at what point in business would you hire someone to do the marketing for you? I would hire someone to do the marketing for me once I have gained traction. And this is what I mean by that. In the very beginning, or even if you've been doing this for a while, but you still haven't got that consistent monthly revenue coming in, and you haven't got your consistent lead source, don't hire a marketer to do your marketing for you. So people will pay marketers or prematurely come to people like me and say, oh, Julia, can you please do my social media for me? Because you're looking for a result. You think that when someone does this for you, suddenly all these leads will be pouring in and that you're going to be making a lot of money. But that's not how it works. Social media is still a machine in which there has to be a lot of playing around with. And the easiest way to equate this for you is it's like cooking. It's like baking. It's like preparing a meal. Before you get to that place where you can make a meal that's so fantastic, but you can do it with your eyes closed, there's a lot of experimentation that takes place. And that's the thing about marketing. So you want to get someone to come in when you absolutely know where you're getting your clients from. You know exactly how much it's costing you to get those clients, so cost of acquisition. You know exactly what the timeline is from when you first meet someone to when they sign up with you, when you have that information. And the only way you're going to get that information is by doing it yourself, and doing it enough times that you have it in the back of your head, where you know that I'll use speaking because with all my clients, I make sure that you focus on getting yourself out there, and that's through speaking. So, holding workshops or being a speaker at a workshop, or holding events or being a speaker at events, doing Facebook Lives or LinkedIn Lives or any other social media lives, making sure that you put yourself in a position where you can be seen and heard. So podcasts or articles, that sort of thing. So if you know that when you go and you do a workshop, that and you do a workshop and there are like 12 people there, and you know that 2 people are going to buy from you, then what you're doing is you're taking the cost of that workshop, everything that it costs you to go there, to the room, everything, and then look at the value of what's coming in and see how much that is. Well, when you know that for a fact, as an example, that you're doing workshops and this is bringing you money, then you're not necessarily going to do Facebook ads or Google ads or anything like that. If anything, you will probably get someone whose job will be to look for events for you. But you will have information that you can give that person, specific information about where to look, even copy to use, things that have worked for you. So you want to hire marketing when you absolutely know where your money's coming in from, how much you put out regularly, the kind of volume that you can sustain. That's when you hire out your marketing. The mistake that most people do is they hire out their marketing because it's just so confusing and they don't know and they don't want. And a lot of people don't like doing sales calls and they don't like going and putting themselves out there. And I get it. It's just that you're going to have to, because you're the best marketer for your job. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about cash flow with like I mentioned in the beginning, there are people who are on track to meet their revenue goals, and then there are those who are not. And that it's not a judgment, it's not a reflection on character, that this is just a reality. And it's just good to know where you are. Maybe at the beginning of the year, you said, I want these many clients, I want this much money. Usually at the beginning of the year, you're like pumped, ambitious, I can do this, and you set those goals, and then life happens. So talking about cash flow, one of the things that is a gift that I hope most of you never have to go through, but if you do, just understand that it's a part of the process, and this is how it goes, is anytime you run out of money, that's a really good time to look at what you already have in place and see what you can get rid of. Because money can cloud judgment. So you may find that when the money is coming in, or the money has come in, you're upgrading your subscriptions, you're upgrading your services, you're hiring assistants at, you want them to feel good about how much you're paying them. So you're spending money doing things that at that moment is justified. But then when you find yourself coming into a crunch is when you can objectively look at what you're doing and ask yourself, do I need this? I am a huge proponent. I love the idea of free trials. So before you actually purchase a subscription for anything, for your newsletters, for your CRM, that is where you put and a lot of you don't do this, please start, where you put in the contacts that you speak with, and you run a record of your conversation so that you're not remembering from memory. Before you pay for these kinds of services, your calendars, any of the software that you use, you want to try out all the free versions. And then the other thing that I do is, if I really like something that I've tried out for free, I go on Google and I look for coupon codes, because a lot of times subscriptions have coupons. And if you're diligent, and if you just give it a good half hour or so, just go online and look for coupon codes that you can use that will greatly reduce the price. And you'll know that there is room for that if you are going to make a purchase and you see that little box there that asks for a code. If there's a box that's asking for a code, if you have one, there's a code somewhere. Go look for it. The other thing I do is I look up, I used to do this on Twitter a lot before I shut down my account after about 12 years. I would go and look at conferences that had taken place, and I'd look for the sponsors and then see if they were giving away discounts or coupon codes, or if they were giving away subscriptions, because a lot of times people do that online. And it's a way for them to maybe get you to attend or show up at their trade booth or whatever the case may be, or they're celebrating something. So I do that so that I can get the best value for my money. So that's something that I would suggest, is look and see what you can get rid of, and look and see what you can get at a price where you don't have to pay full price, especially if that avenue exists. I'm not saying go cheap out on people. I'm saying when it comes to subscriptions, when it comes to software, there's almost always a way that you can save money if you look. And the other thing is, be really objective. A lot of the things that we use for our business are things that make us look good. And so, you might be using an email service that looks good, or you may be using a scheduling tool. You may be using things in your business that make you feel like you're showing the world that you've got it, that you've made it. So just be objective, look at what you're using, and ask yourself if it's bringing you any money. If it's not, it can go. It can go. If it's not bringing you any money, if you cannot directly tie what you're spending to what you're getting, find a cheaper, easier way to do it, or get rid of it. Absolutely. And then as the money's coming in, don't give in to the temptation to upgrade, stay lean. So this is the thing. There are probably two things that you do in your business that bring in all your business. We might think that it's because you do this, you do that, you go out, you post, you're in a networking group, you may do many different marketing activities, but the reality is it's probably one, max two of those things that bring you business. Yeah. Even though, you've got like maybe 7 different things that you do for your marketing activities, it's probably only 2 of them that bring you the money. So what I would ask you to do is, and this week is a really good time to do it. Now, if you're in Canada, I know we have the long weekend coming up and probably festivities and stuff like that, but do yourself and do your business a favor. Sit down and look at all your banking records from January up until now. And again, no judgment. Do not do this from, oh, look at me, this is how much I've spent, this is what I didn't bring in. Don't do that to yourself. Just look at it objectively. And then look at what you're paying for. Look at, and when I say pay for, I mean including any networking events that you go for, any food that you buy out when you meet people, and see what absolutely did not bring you money, and make sure you cut that off for the next 6 months. An example, I discovered that going out and meeting people for coffee to have conversations made me feel good, but it did not bring me money. Instead, I was taking an average of 3 hours, because in my mind, I was thinking, no, we just sat down for half an hour, 45 minutes, but I wasn't thinking about my getting ready, leaving the house, getting to the venue, us taking that time, and then my leaving the venue, going back to my house or to the next event, which was an average of 3 hours. I mean, you can do so much in 3 hours, right? So instead, understanding that I really enjoyed meeting people and talking to them, and building relationships in that way, but my business could not afford it, I cut that off, which means that now within those 3 hours, I could have 3 conversations with 15-minute breaks in between, not leaving my house, using a service that's already been paid for, my phone. So just do that objectively, look at that. You want to be consistent with your marketing efforts, whether you have clients or not, because that's how you're always going to have clients. And this is where the calendar comes in handy. So you want to make sure you have a calendar. So for the next 6 months, when you look at, your goals and say, so how much money do I need to bring in? And then break that down into, well, how many clients do I need? And then take the number of clients you need and multiply by 5 and assume that those are the number of people that you need to speak with so that you can get 1 yes for each of the clients that you need or opportunities that you're looking for. And then take your calendar and map out where you're going to be speaking with these people or how you can speak to them. An example, if I need to make $20,000 for this month, as an example, and I need about 5 clients, which will bring about $4,000 in, right? So to get those 5 clients, I know that I need to speak with about 25 people. So that's the 5 times 5. And I need to speak with about 25 people because not all 25 people will say yes to me. In fact, I only expect a fifth of them to say yes to me, which is the 5 clients that I want. So where do I get these 25 people from? That's where your marketing calendar comes in. That's when you put into your marketing calendar how they can come in. So if you know that you're going to speak on an event and the event has 200 people, there's a very good chance that 1 or 2 or even more will be signing up to work with you. So you look at that and say, do I have any event where I'm going to be speaking? Am I doing any webinar? Am I participating in any other opportunity? Is there a networking event that I can go to? Is there a table I can sponsor where my people will be? Is there a free gift that I can offer others? Then I can invite them to my own free gift. Or is there an event that I can quickly put together at no cost to me and have people show up? So that's how you plan that marketing calendar. So that if you do that and you consistently do the work, you more than likely will hit your goal. And even if you don't, what this teaches you is to be consistent, to be mindful, to plan, and to work out the steps regardless of the outcome. Because what I've found to be true for me and for a lot of people is that people will buy from you when they know that you're serious about what you're doing. So And depending on what you're offering in terms of products and services, people will watch you sometimes for a really long time to make sure that they can trust you. Sometimes you'll have people who will buy at the spur of the moment. They'll say, oh, I just got this vibe, I just got this feeling. That's nice. But not everybody's like that. There are people who will watch you, study you, read up on your stuff, come back, maybe disappear because of life, come back. And if they see that you're consistent, if they see the value is consistent, that that they can see what they're getting by working with you, then they'll buy from you. But you have to be consistent. You have to be consistent with your efforts. I'm just going to answer one more question, and then I will wrap this up. And so I've gotten a lot of questions about organization. And the other question is on how to better organize your time. So I already talked to you about the calendar and mapping out a calendar that you're going to put up in your home so that the rest of your family can see it and adhere to it, and for you to do the same. The other thing is, I would like for you to sit down with a paper and pen and write down everything that you do for your business on a regular day-to-day basis. And if you don't know, because it's all over the place and every day is different, then I want you to start from tomorrow with a blank piece of paper, writing down everything that you do. So, if you get up and you check email, I want you to write down checked email. It doesn't